Well, hello everyone, Laura Trotter here, and thank you so much for joining me on this webinar where I'm going to chat about sustainable eating. Now, you are watching this recording because something did happen on the webinar and for some reason the sound didn't work, so I'm actually doing this as a recording now. But the content's still the same and I know you're going to love it. So you might be trying to eat a healthy, unprocessed diet and do the right thing by your body, but are you really doing enough when it comes to the environment? So tonight I'm going to share some of my best tips on sustainable eating, including how you can eat for a healthy you and a healthy earth, and plus I'll be sharing my thoughts on what is the most sustainable diet. Okay, so let's show you what I'm going to be covering in this webinar / presentation. Alright, so I'm going to be chatting about what is a sustainable diet and what is sustainable eating, why sustainable eating is important, what is the most sustainable diet, how we can reduce the environmental impact of our food choices, where meat fits into this picture. Yes, I'm going to chat about this topic because it is the elephant in the room and it does need to be chatted about. And then I'll extend an invitation to learn more and support a brand new project. And I hope that you become part of this brand new movement. And I guess if this was the live webinar that it was supposed to be, I would be taking questions. Like, I just do everything unedited and raw, and I'm quite happy to take your questions. But because the sound didn't work, I am recording it, so we won't be having questions here. But I am happy, if you are watching this recording, if you want to email me at hello@lauratrotter.com with any questions, I'm happy to take them. Okay, now before we dive in, I just wanted to introduce myself to you because you might be thinking, what does this girl know about sustainable eating? What does she know about nutrition, cooking, and running a busy household? Basically, what does she really know about all of this? So I really just want to ease your mind with that and tell you a little bit about my background and my story. So I guess I did start, I'm an environmental engineer, and I started studying environmental engineering over 21 years ago. And for 11 years, I worked within industry in Australia, so big heavy industry in 4 different states, so Tasmania, Victoria, Queensland and South Australia, monitoring and managing the impact of some of the largest operations in the country on the environment and their surrounding communities. I also hold a Master's of Science in Environmental Chemistry, which I studied while working full time. I know I'm one of those crazy people. So I have basically lived and breathed sustainability at work and at home for pretty much my entire life. So I've always been quite green, but I've always been a foodie too. So my best childhood memories, I guess, apart from the awesome holidays we had in the great outdoors, my best day-to-day memories were in the kitchen helping Mum cook everything from soups, roasts, desserts. And from the age of 10, I even entered my own cooking in our local agricultural show every year. So it wasn't a surprise that my first paid job at the age of 14 was in hospitality at a local ice creamery in our country town. And I worked in hospitality throughout my secondary schooling and my university years when I moved to Melbourne. So I was waitressing at some of the top restaurants at Flemington and Caulfield racecourses in Melbourne, as well as working at some function centres as well. And I loved picking the brains of some of the awesome chefs there. So it was kind of funny. After I graduated, I guess I was his engineer during business hours, yet in the evenings and on the weekends, I'd be cooking up a storm. So hosting dinner parties and even running my own Wholefoods stall at the local market in Townsville when I lived in North Queensland on Sundays. So it was, I'd be making jams out of my garden. So I had pawpaw jams and mango chutneys and a lot of different, macadamia shortbreads and things like that. Pardon me. So my interest in food and cooking from scratch continued to grow over the years, and it really stepped up a notch 11 years ago when we moved. I moved with my boyfriend at the time. He's now my husband, and we have 2 young children. So about 11 years ago, we moved to a remote town in the middle of Australia, in outback South Australia. And I'd always been blessed with living near fresh markets where I could source foods. But for the first time in my life, I just had access to one small supermarket where the produce was far from fresh and organic food was simply not available. So I think you could buy a peach one day, it would be rock hard. The next day it would be ripe, And I guess if you didn't eat it that day, the following day it would be literally moldy in your fruit bowl. It was it wasn't great when you like eating nice fresh food and an abundance of fresh food. So I really, really struggled. But I guess we were only here for about 3 months, and we did what anyone who loves fresh produce would do, and that started an organic vegetable garden in our backyard. And we were renting at the time, but we still had a bit of space. So we kept some chickens as well, and we also grew a variety of some bush tucker foods that were native to our region, like warrigal greens, and I guess we had a little quandong bush and things like that. But I digress. This was all before we had children, when I was still working as a full-time environmental engineer. But during my pregnancy, I decided I didn't want to go back to the inflexible, male-dominated industry I'd lived and breathed with for well over a decade, and I decided to set up a home business instead. And given that sustainability was my passion and I was having my first baby, I started a business in 2009 called Sustainababy. And I ran that for well over 5 years. It's an e-commerce business specialising in eco-friendly baby products. And I was helping a lot of new mums, parent with the environment in mind. During that time as well, I had my youngest Christopher, but I started, packaging up my eco-living information, because a lot of my customers were wanting to know how to live more sustainably. So I launched a Greenhouse Home Energy Blitz, which is a course on reducing your home energy use, and the Home Detox Bootcamp, which is all about breaking up with synthetic chemicals in your home. And I guess I made a big decision last year. I sold past Sustainababy on to a new owner, deciding that I just wanted to work in the education space, not so much in the retail space anymore. So I launched just lauratrotter.com, where I could write about everything eco-living. I've got my Eco Chat podcast and a new project on the way, self-sufficiency in the suburbs, but I'll be talking a little bit more about that later on in this presentation. So I guess over the last 6 years or so, I have been writing about eco-living and sustainability all over the internet. So I guess more recently with I Quit Sugar and 1 Million Women, and I was a regular columnist for quite some time with My Child magazine and Nurture Parenting as well. But I guess I do focus a lot of my efforts into my weekly Eco Chat radio show on ABC Radio in South Australia, as well as trying to get to a few more live events like the Adelaide Transitions Film Festival, where I was on the sustainability panel on the opening night, which was a lot of fun. So you can see that I am truly obsessed with all things sustainability, and that's why I'm so excited to share some of my best secrets that you can apply to ensure you're eating for a healthy you and a healthy earth. So moving right along, let's just chat about what is a sustainable diet. So in a nutshell, a healthy sustainable diet is about producing nutritious food without degrading the environment. But here's how the United Nations defines it. So the UN says that sustainable diets are those diets with low environmental impacts which contribute to food and nutrition security and to healthy life for present and future generations. But they go on a little bit more. They also say that sustainable diets are protective and respective of biodiversity and ecosystems. They're culturally acceptable, they're accessible, they're economically fair and affordable, nutritionally adequate, safe and healthy, while optimizing natural and human resources. So that's quite a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? But what I guess makes it clear is that a sustainable diet is not just about optimum health for the human. It's about eating a healthy, balanced diet that's in tune with the environment, while still enabling the earth to easily provide for future generations. So, why is sustainable eating important? I guess when it's obvious that so many people struggle to eat a healthy diet, the high rates of obesity and diabetes speak for themselves, it can be hard to wrap your head around the concept of sustainable eating and its importance. But what if I told you that the very survival of our species depends on us changing the way we eat? And I know that's a lot to swallow, but it is true. And this graph puts it in a great perspective. So with the world's human population predicted to increase from its current 7.5 billion to 10 billion people by 2050, So that's in my lifetime, and I bet you bottom dollar it's in your lifetime as well. It's one of the most inconvenient truths that needs to be addressed, and very quickly. So most of that growth is going to be happening in the less developed region, so predominantly on the African continent, and I guess India as well, with I guess still more developed regions, I guess staying fairly stable. But obviously getting a lot of people moving from these less developed regions into these more developed regions, which we're seeing in the world nowadays anyway. So people are moving for political reasons, but they're also moving for environmental reasons. Sorry, I'm just going to take a mouth of water. But yeah, so this population growth it's just growing exponentially. So what's not on this graph to the far left is that I guess the world population was fairly stable up until, I guess, the 1800s, even the early 1900s. So it was really after the Industrial Revolution and with invention of things like penicillin and better nutrition and better healthcare where our population really started to increase. And I've just noticed the scale on the y-axis is supposed to be billion, so that's 10 billion people will be up to, not 10 million. So most people believe that it's actually urban sprawl and industries like mining that have the biggest impact on the environment, but that's simply not the case. Agriculture, both to feed a growing human population and to grow food to feed livestock, to feed this growing human population, is the dominant land use on planet. I mean, you only have to go up in an aeroplane flying over the countryside and you'll see what the dominant land use is of the planet. And it's not cities, it's not freeways, it's just farmland. So currently 36% of the world's landmass deemed suitable for crop production is used for agriculture. So in the United States, agriculture uses over 50% of land area, whereas mining disturbs around about 0.1% of the land. So we've got this mindset that we think it's heavy industry and it's urban sprawl and it's freeways. And yeah, sure, they do have an impact, but nothing like the extent of agriculture. So data compiled by the World Resources Institute reveals that our planet has already lost 80% of its forest cover due to deforestation. And yeah, the West Africa region, which boasted lush green tropical forests in the early 19th century, has been stripped of 90% of its forest cover over the past 100 years. And a similar trend of deforestation continues in the two remaining rainforest biomes in South America and parts of Asia, which are some of the most biodiverse pockets on Earth. And I mention these because basically this is where I said that we're only using about 36% of the landmass on Earth for agriculture. And you think, oh, well, great, there's a good 64% less of remaining land that's suitable for agriculture. But this land is in those countries, Brazil, Democratic Republic of Congo, the Sudan, Angola, Argentina, Colombia, and Bolivia, all rainforest countries where I guess we have all that biodiversity and I guess the rainforests, which are the lungs of the planet. So we need to keep that in mind too. So we think we've got all this land available, but really the cost of that land is losing biodiversity and species such as orangutans, which are really under threat, primarily from palm oil plantations, from the growing demand of palm oil from the Western world because we eat so much processed food that has palm oil so it can maintain shelf life in it. But anyway, so as mentioned, agriculture is the largest land use on Earth, and more wild areas like rainforests are being transformed into plantations, farms, or just grazing land for livestock. So with this in mind, we could be faced with a scenario of humans eating ourselves out of house and home within our lifetime. So put simply, we will run out of space to grow the food we need to survive, or we'll just keep destroying wild environments to be able to grow that food and witnessing mass loss of biodiversity as our impact on this planet increases. And we might just think, oh yeah, well, they're just other species. It's, well, you know, some people would think humans are more important than half of these species, but these species are critical for our survival. We think we're very, very arrogant if we think that we're not an endangered species on this planet. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I could chat about this for ages. I do get quite passionate about it. But yeah, basically eco-eating is very important. So as I said, I could go on for hours and hours why sustainable eating is important, but it's also very important because it helps to lessen the impact of conventional eating. So I guess, the impact of chemicals that are used in agriculture, and they have a massive impact on the health of workers and also nearby ecosystems because of spray drift, the growing prevalence of genetically modified crops, seed security, which is a big one because it's something like 4 big countries own something like 90%. Don't quote me on that, but it's they own the vast majority of seeds in the world, and I guess farmers are now locked into the process of buying these seeds, which are hybrid seeds in a lot of cases, and they can't collect seeds the next generation. These seeds aren't viable per such. You can't collect them off the crops. You have to keep buying these seeds. So in some countries too, people have lost that food security and been able to collect their seeds and plant their crops themselves. They have to buy them year in, year out from these organisations. So eco-eating is important. We want, because we want to prevent the loss of topsoil and land fertility from conventional farming practices, the overfishing of our oceans, impacts of intensive farming, and greenhouse gas, which livestock is the number one emitter, a lot more than planes, trains, and automobiles combined. So yeah, I could go on for ages, but I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I prefer to give you strategies that you can use right now to reduce the environmental impact of your diet, which leads perfectly onto the next topic. What is the most sustainable diet? Now this is where it does get a little bit more complex because there are several ways of eating out there that claim this title. And of course, food also has a much greater significance in our lives than just nourishment. So our family, religious and cultural traditions all center around food. So think Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Ramadan, the list goes on. But if we need to change the way we eat for the health of the planet, which diet should we choose? Should we be vegetarian, sugar-free, raw, paleo, whole foods, Mediterranean diet, organic, vegan? All of these, none of these, a combination of these. It's, there's no doubt that I guess a lot of people are very confused. So, move on slide. All right. Sustainable diet. Firstly, before I chat more about diets and what to eat, I just want to share with you my thoughts that a sustainable diet needs to be sustainable for you. So there's no point you going all out there and being vegan for a week or two and then binging out on everything that you deprived yourself for. So what I guess I'm also trying to say is that perfection isn't sustainable. So one way of eating may suit your best friend, for example, but it may not suit you. So I myself, and I have experimented with pretty much every single one of those diets that was on that previous slide. Let's go back to them. Yeah. I was vegetarian for several years. I've quit sugar and been sugar-free, and I definitely am refined sugar-free. I even tried raw for a little while. I found that very unsustainable for me, although I do make a lot of raw treats now. But in terms of eating all raw, most of my food is organic, and I have been vegan at times as well. I've tried every one of these diets. And on that last point I was just saying, what suited me when I was single, and I was vegetarian for many years in my 20s, I was fine. I had abundant health, but I found I needed to change this up when I was coping with the demands of pregnancy, breastfeeding, and raising a young family in my 30s. So this involved me reintroducing some meat and meat products like bone broths to maximize my intake of nutrients. But I was very selective of the quality and the type of meat I introduced, and very savvy with how I used it. So I guess what I'm trying to say before we go into what is the most sustainable diet, I'm saying that what is the best and the most sustainable diet for you might be different for another person. And I guess let's not be too judgmental and respect this in other people as well. Okay, so without beating too much around the bush, what is the most sustainable diet? And I just want to let you know too that, as you're well aware, I'm an environmental professional. I'm not a dietitian or nutritionist. So all these opinions are basically my own from an environmental standpoint, but also because they also be having a healthy diet and a healthy human as well. We need to have a healthy environment. So the most sustainable diet is primarily an organic whole foods diet, but it's so much more than that, because a whole foods diet where you eat unprocessed foods that have been shipped in from all around the world, so think Himalayan rock salt from Pakistan, gelatin from the Great Lakes in North America, frozen berries from Chile, Rapadura sugar from Sri Lanka, maple syrup from Canada. So if you're shipping in all these whole foods from all around the world, that is definitely not sustainable or environmentally friendly in the true sense of the term. So the most sustainable diet is taking an extra step forward and really going beyond whole foods. And it's what I like to call being an ecotarian. So let's chat a little bit more about that. What is an ecotarian? So being an ecotarian is primarily eating foods that are grown and produced locally, including foods that you have grown yourself, like even if you've just got a basic herb garden or one tomato plant, or supporting farmers markets which support the local producers in your region. So you can have that organic whole foods diet, but be trying to be sourcing everything as much locally as you can. And I'm not going to go out and say that like this, for example, is the most sustainable sugar, because if you do live in Canada, maple syrup could probably very well much be the most sustainable sugar. If you lived in Sri Lanka, it would be Rapadura sugar. If you lived in Indonesia, it would be coconut sugar. See, the most sustainable foods change depending where you live, because it all comes down to that food miles and what can be sourced locally. So back on sugar, the most sustainable sugar for me is a raw unprocessed honey that's produced in the state in Australia where I live. So eating foods that are produced and grown locally, eating fresh foods that are in season. You know, we're not meant to be eating berries all year round unless you live in a place in the world where berries are grown, which comes down to the next point: learning how to preserve, ferment or drying foods to enjoy when out of season. Eating a diet rich in whole foods, so anything that has been processed generally uses a lot more energy and water to produce it, as well as packaging to contain it. So avoiding packaged foods, but not just foods, drinks as well. So you don't want to be, I know the Italian mineral water is beautiful and it's sparkling and stuff like that, but again, it's, you know, if you're an ecotarian, you're probably thinking very hard about drinking mineral water that's come from one end of the world. So yeah, for example, what do I drink? I drink a lot of loose leaf herbal teas, organic teas, and water. They're the two things, and I make my own kombucha as well. So they're the three things I drink the most. And we also have a juicer, so we juice some fruit as well. So packaged foods and drinks, and also being super mindful of meal planning and I guess loving your leftovers in order to eliminate food waste. And this is a really big one, because you can eat a perfect vegan, paleo or whole foods diet, and if you're tossing out spare vegetables and meals that have gone off in your fridge, or just things that are past their best and you just haven't got around to cooking, that is not sustainable. So food waste is a massive one, because up to, I guess there's a few statistics out there, but up to 40% of the waste stream leaving a typical household in the country I live in is food waste. And typically around 25% of the food we purchased ends up not being eaten and is wasted. So just imagine yourself buying 4 bags of food at the supermarket and then just leaving one on the counter and walking out with 3. In reality, that's what's happening week in, week out in Western countries. So ecotarian people love food, hate waste. So where does meat fit into this picture? So meat has been an important component of the human diet pretty much forever, since our caveman days, but does it still have a place in our diet of the future? It is really important to grapple and get your head around the issue with eating meat. So I take my hat off and I fully respect those who choose not to eat meat. Of course, a lot of people that choose not to eat meat and meat products do it for, animal liberation reasons as much as environmental reasons, and that's fine and perfectly fine. The vegan diet is a very sustainable diet. I guess saying that, I know that you can also buy a lot of fake meats like fake chicken and things like that. So that's probably not very sustainable, but a lot of the practicalities and principles of the vegan and I guess then the vegetarian way of eating are very sustainable. So yeah, we do want to be eating a lot more plants in our diet and and legumes and pulses anyway. But back on the issue of eating meat. So livestock production for human consumption is listed as the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases on the planet. Not to mention the extensive farms of grains and crops, so corn and grains that are grown to feed livestock for our consumption. So for the world's population to grow from 7.5 to 10 billion by 2050, we do need to change the way we eat, and the type of meat we eat and how frequently we eat it definitely needs to change. Yeah, so at the moment, about a quarter of the world's land surface is used for grazing, and 20 to 70% of this land is considered degraded, which isn't a great sign, particularly in countries like Australia where the topsoil is very thin naturally. If you've got hard-hoofed animals like beef, and I guess pigs as well, and sheep, so it really degrades the land, and you just need a dust storm and you've lost all your topsoil. So the cost of meat will gradually continue to rise and put pressure on households who do eat a lot of meat, but we do need to educate ourselves and other people of the impact of eating meat, both on their health and the environment. So moving right along, other issues with eating meat. So intensive factory farm meat production uses an unsustainable amount, I guess, of grain crops, water and land. So that's what I was talking about. So we've got land that's used for grazing, but we've also got masses and masses of land that's just used for growing food to go to our factory farms where we can feed the animals, I guess, in the sheds and stuff like that. So they're not feeding on grasses and pastures and everything in the paddocks. They're feeding them grain, which has to be grown somewhere, and most of that is grown in developing countries. Also, just on another side, it's not so much meat as such, but it is meat. It's seafood. 1/3 of the world's fisheries are overfished and under threat. And I guess seafood and our oceans, just in a nutshell, are really struggling. They're struggling for a lot of reasons, but yeah, just overfishing is one of them. So seafood, while it's in one sense, it's a healthy part of our diet, it's also really not very sustainable. It's almost up there with beef, not quite as bad as beef. Okay, so can meat consumption be sustainable? So of course, if you're wanting to, I guess, make your diet even more eco-friendly, you could look at the no meat option. You could just go cold turkey. Pardon the pun, but you could go cold turkey, and not choose to eat meat. And if that works for you, that's totally fine. But I find it's really hard to go out and just tell the whole world to stop eating meat when most people really enjoy eating meat and have a big love affair with it. It gets part down to the culture and what they want. So I think it does come down to educating people of the impact, because my experience is that most people still want to eat meat, which means the challenge is changing how people eat meat. So regenerative farming practices are taking off a little bit more and becoming more and more prevalent in the world. And these are fantastic farms. So they're typically organic farms, but they value the diversity of what's called polycultures. So basically, most of the land in the world has had animals grazing and roaming over it for thousands of years. But and these regenerated farms take advantage of natural processes where animals and plants form a complex, symbiotic, robust system. So these regenerative farms seek to address the deep basis of ecological health, and that's the soil. And basically, they might have cattle where they move from paddock to paddock just after a day or two. So the cows graze on a paddock and eat the pastures, and then they might put chickens in that paddock, which eat and turn over the manure and eat all the bugs in the manure, and then they might put some turkeys in to do their job, and the pastures are getting all dug up and turned over, and the organic matter is growing over time, as opposed to, as I said, 20 to 70% of the land where cattle is at the moment being very severely degraded. But these regenerated farms actually add biodiversity. So, and pardon me, got a bit of a cold. But yeah, so I won't talk too much longer. But buying meat from these regenerated farms is quite sustainable. These farms are very sustainable, and they're making a very I guess it's ethical meat, but they're improving the environment in which they're farming as well. You could also just reduce the amount of meat you eat. So swapping if you meat-free Monday concept has taken off a lot in recent years, but maybe you just have a meat Monday, just have meat one day a week, not don't eat meat for one day a week. So swap it around a bit, or just, go every second day or every third day without meat if just, 6 days a week is too much to get your head around. So just slowly reduce it a little bit more. Or alternatively, stretch your meat out in your meals. So fantastic ways to do this are through stir fries. So maybe see if you can just have 100 grams of meat go through a stir fry to feed 4 people, as opposed to having 100 or 200 grams steak on your plate. So, see what I mean? All of a sudden you've got 10% of the meat that you would have bought. Stir fries, casseroles, frittatas and soups. And also using the bones. So if you are going to, don't have meat the centerpiece of the meal, add a small bit for flavor and get every ounce of nutrition out of your meat. So have a roast chicken and then use the bones to make a bone broth. And if you've still got leftover chicken, pop that in. So you can go to chicken soup, for example, or if you've still got leftover chicken, make a frittata out of it. So stretch it as far as you can. And of course, I know most of the world loves seafood, but yeah, it's really under so much pressure. So really try and avoid it as much as you can. And as mentioned in the regenerated farming practices, choose ethically raised meat always. So it is more expensive, I do get that, but it's more reflective of the cost to produce meat. And I prefer to spend $20 on a chicken that's been raised ethically in like a free range chicken and in a regenerative farming practice that's actually building up the topsoil, as opposed to a $3 chicken in a factory farm that's fed grain grown from developing countries. So the dollars you spend today shape the world of tomorrow. So I'm just encouraging you to buy that better. If you do want to eat meat, buy that better quality meat and stretch it as far as you can. You can get a bit more creative in the kitchen. So there you have it. You now hopefully have a better understanding of the importance of sustainable eating and some strategies you can put into place to decrease the environmental impact of your food choices. So what I've covered is really the tip of the iceberg on this topic, and I could go into a lot more depth, but we are confined for time today. So I guess what I do want to ask you though is, what would you think if I told you that sustainable eating is just only one part of living sustainably? How would you feel if I told you that there's so many other changes you can make to improve your family's health, save a ton of money, and ensure we leave a half-decent environment for future generations? Now, if you're truly interested in creating a healthy, self-sufficient home while still living in the modern world, let me invite you to become a part of something extraordinary. Now, we all know that modern life has become super busy, like bordering on crazy at times. I get it. I've got young boys too. And we're getting further and further away from a simple, healthy lifestyle. And that's why I'm in the process of creating self-sufficiency in the suburbs. So this program will become the ultimate course, membership community, and indeed movement to support you in your quest for a more self-sufficient lifestyle. So eating a sustainable diet and becoming an Ecotarian is just one aspect of running a self-sufficient, sustainable home. And in this program, I'll be sharing all my home sustainability secrets with you, including topics like managing your time, growing an organic kitchen garden, becoming resource savvy with things like water and energy, breaking up with your supermarket, raising productive pets, and more. Self-sufficiency in the suburbs will be truly unique. There's nothing like it currently available, and it's my intention for it to have a big impact on the way we live. But I do need your help to get it out there. But first, let me just tell you a little bit more about it and what you can expect. So in short, it's an online course and membership club that will help you live a more self-sufficient life in our modern world. So this exclusive club combines practical tools like insanely useful how-tos with a really great community of like-minded souls to support you as you journey towards a better, simpler, more sustainable way of living. So membership includes exclusive and unlimited access to 6 modules of self-sufficiency training. That's a bit of a tongue twister. The Self-Sufficiency Sisterhood, which is a closed Facebook community. Our community recipe index of Ecotarian recipes, so you never need to be stuck for what to cook for dinner. A monthly self-sufficiency challenge. Now, I used to run these years ago when I still had my business Sustain a Baby, and I used to set a challenge each month for survivors and not survivors, for followers, subscribers, and have some really good prizes for that. So I'll be bringing that back to life per se in this program, and also have some guest experts and interviews and masterclasses, and some checklists and how-to guides. For example, what do you need to know if you're going to get chickens, which are the best breeds, all that sort of stuff. So let's quickly race through the modules and I'll tell you what's included. So module 1 is how to run a self-sufficient household. So these are the essential foundations that will get you up and running in no time. So things like how to get your partner and kids on board, the secret to running a self-sufficient home, and how to find the time to do it all. So there's a lot of juice. I've written this module already. There's a lot of juicy content in there based on, I surveyed my following a good 6 months ago, asking them what was the biggest barrier to creating a more sustainable home, and everyone said time. So I've really racked my brains to help people get through that. Module 2 is pretty much what we've been talking through tonight. So beyond whole foods. So discovering the self-sufficient diet, learning how to become more ecotarian. You'll get access to all my favorite ecotarian recipes and meal planners. Plus you'll learn how to set up your pantry, what to do with leftovers, and how to make the most of your fresh produce. Module 3 is all about turning your thumb green. So getting into the garden, whether it's setting up a backyard garden or a balcony garden or just a kitchen garden. So I basically want to be guiding you to start growing some things. And we talk about the best way to get your kids or grandkids on board as well. Module 4 is your waste-free home. So you won't believe how little waste you'll start producing after implementing these simple strategies. So we talk about plastics, how to become a mindful consumer, how to get your kids to think this way, and 10 ways to cut your food waste. Module 5, your resource savvy home. So this is basically where you can make some serious, impressive savings to your wallet and the planet with just a few key tweaks. So I'm talking about water use in the home, like what you need to know before you install solar panels, but how you can easily save energy in your home without compromising your lifestyle and without making that massive investment of solar if you're not ready to do that. Module 6 is breaking up with your supermarket. So it's all about becoming a lot more self-sufficient and making a lot of everyday products yourself. So I do cover a lot of this in my Home Detox Bootcamp, but where we make a lot of our laundry powders and our dishwashing detergents and a lot of our personal care products as well, but we take it a much bigger step, a broader here, breaking up with the supermarket. So looking at how to purchase sustainable products, how to find a co-op near you, and just easily things you can quickly delete from your shopping list. And a bonus module is all about productive pets. Because I know you're typically living in the suburbs and you can't have everything that people in the country have, but there are some suburban friendly pets that can double as contributors to your household. So I'm talking things like chickens or even ducks, worm farms. You might want to dabble in aquaculture or even think about having some bees. Whatever you want, we'll chat about it and get you the support and the tools you need to get started in productive pets. Okay, so through basically how's it going to look? It's not developed yet at all, but that will be a mobile friendly. I've had concepts already drawn up, but it's a mobile friendly membership site. So you can watch or listen to the material via your computer, tablet, or even your phone. Or you can even just download an audio track for the modules and learn while you take a walk, commute, or do the housework. So all of this training is incredibly useful, but just let it be said, what you get out of this program is so much more than just learning how to cook or garden or save a few $100 on your weekly bill. So with self-sufficiency in the suburbs, what you really get is freedom. You don't have to rely on big supermarkets or global corporations. You can stand on your own 2 feet, which gives you so much more choice, more power, and allows you to truly walk your walk. Pride as well, you'll have the relief of knowing that you're really living in alignment with the eco ideals you hold close to your heart, and you'll just get a lot more satisfaction from your lifestyle. You'll also get some certainty, so you'll know exactly what you're feeding your kids, what you're putting on your skin, what you're cleaning your house with, all of it. You're in control, and it's a really good place to be. And you're also creating a legacy for the future. So you're not just making the world a better place for future generations, you're having an immediate impact on the health of you and your children by modelling for them a meaningful existence. Yeah, just based on living what you believe in. Okay, so these are just some testimonials from some of my lovely followers who have done some of my existing programs. So Julie Langdon has said, I've helped her get back on track with the eco values she had years ago but lost along the way due to the busyness of family life. I feel confident that your knowledge is sound, safe, and to be trusted, and I love the way you share this. Your courses have provided me with knowledge above and beyond what was expected, and the opportunity to be part of such a warm, caring, and inspiring community forever. Okay, so about self-sufficiency, what you also get, if I have mentioned that I haven't yet created it, I do have, and this is on future slides now, I have a crowdfunding campaign out there right now for it. It's got less than 7 days to go, and if you do pledge your support during this crowdfunding campaign, you will get lifetime access into the program. So if you invest this week in self-sufficiency in the suburbs, it's yours for the lifetime of the course. And what's great about that is that you will get free updates. You'll get obviously direct support through me in the Self-Sufficiency Sisterhood, like that closed Facebook community. You'll also get the opportunity to be involved in monthly self-sufficiency challenges and earn yourself some awesome eco prizes, and you'll get full access to the Ecotarian recipe index as well. So like I said, if you do pledge your support now, you'll get lifetime access as part, just as a way for me thanking my early adopters and supporters of the program. Because when it does launch later in this year, it will be a membership program. So people would buy it, they might sign up annually and get charged annually, or they could pay per the month as well. But if you do buy now, you will pledge your support on this crowdfunding project, you'll never have to pay another cent again. So another fan, Anne-Marie, says Laura's eco-living courses are absolute value for money. The modules are very easy to follow, especially for someone getting started in sustainable living. Laura is great, so much knowledge and always responsive to questions. A great community to be part of as well, very positive, encouraging. I'm so happy that I signed up to create a healthier environment for my family. Okay, so you can see the URL down the bottom of this slide, possible.com/project/self-sufficiency in the suburbs. So that's where you can go right now, please, or over the next couple of days to pledge your support. And I just want to ask what you think this program should cost, because basically following a very in-depth market review, but even before that, all the changes you make when you follow the guidelines in this program will literally save you thousands off your household budget year after year after year. But I do want to make this program accessible for the masses. I want this to be big. I want this to be a movement. So I've decided to charge $297 for it. So that's paid annually and enables ongoing membership to the community and updated content, monthly challenges, and guest experts. So yeah, but the really cool thing is I wanted to really make it a no-brainer for you to support me in developing this program and getting it up and out there and helping you get the eco-friendly, healthy home you deserve. So if you pledge your support now in this crowdfunding campaign, you'll be able to pick up lifetime access to self-sufficiency in the suburbs at the one-off, never pay again, early bird special of $197. There's less than 60 places available. Because it is crowdfunding, there are limited rewards, so there's less than 60 places available to pick it up at that price. Or there's about 30 places available if you want to throw in lifetime Home Detox Bootcamp membership as well. So that would be $297 for self-sufficiency and Home Detox membership. So you can basically pick up both of them for less than the price of Home Detox Bootcamp alone, which is amazing, amazing value. So yeah, please head over to possible.com/project self-sufficiency in the suburbs and pledge your support to help me get this project off the ground. I've already had around 25 awesome people pledge their support, and we're over 30% of the way there, but we've got like I said, 70% of the way to go in these next 7 days to get the project over the line, and I really need your help to do that. So yeah, head over there please. Now, because this was going to be a live webinar, I do have a bonus. I was going to have a bonus if you pledged your support live on this call. But I can't do that because this is now a recorded presentation since I stuffed up my webinar. But if you pledge your support, if you registered for this webinar and if you pledge your support, what are we now, Monday night, between now and Wednesday night, so in the next 48 hours, and if you email me at hello@lauratrotter.com, letting me know you've pledged your support and that you were registered and supporting me on this webinar that I botched up, I will send you an e-guide containing some of my favorite Ecotarian recipes that I've developed and I use in my own home. So these are my family meals that I feed my tribe, and let me tell you, my family eat like royalty on a modest budget. I just wish that they realize that, because I still complain and refuse to eat things sometimes. But anyway, so I think some of my favorite soups, frittatas, main meals, desserts and snacks. I've never distributed these before, and I'll be pulling these together over the next week to show my thanks to those of you who pledge your support tonight and tomorrow. So yeah, you'll receive these as a thank you over the next week or so after the project gets over the line and funds are processed. And that's what's pictured there is one of the delicious recipes you'll receive. So they're my orange almond cake. So I'm a huge fan of using the entire fruit, and these gluten and dairy-free cakes use the entire orange, skin and all, which makes them perfect for an Ecotarian recipe because there is no waste. So you will get that recipe, and it's very healthy too. Okay, so please show your support for self-sufficiency in the suburbs. Here's the deal. You'll need to head over to possible.com, that URL that's just there, to pledge your support to help me get this project off the ground. And as mentioned, the crowdfunding ends in just 1 week's time on Monday the 6th of June, so please show your support prior to then. If the funds aren't raised, the project won't go ahead. So if you'd like to see self-sufficiency in the suburbs out and into the world, changing lives, changing health and changing the environment, now is the time to show your support, please. So just to sum it all up, self-sufficiency in the suburbs contains 7 action-focused how-to training modules. So as mentioned, how to run a self-sufficient household, beyond Wholefoods, getting into the garden, your waste-free home, your resource-savvy home, breaking up with your supermarket, and productive pets. Plus, you'll also be able to participate in monthly self-sufficiency challenges and go in the running to win fabulous eco prizes. And you'll have access to amazing guest experts and myself to ask any burning questions. So as I said, this crowdfunding campaign ends in 1 week's time on Monday the 6th of June. So please show your support prior to then in order to get this project created. So if the funds aren't raised, the project won't go ahead. So if you'd like to see self-sufficiency out there in the world, changing lives, it is really time now to show your support. And I look forward to helping you create your self-sufficient home really, really soon. Here's just another testimonial from one of my home detoxers, Alison Shaw from New South Wales. So she says, Laura has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to sustainable living. She is very approachable and supportive with every inquiry or concern. The quality of her courses are of professional standards and are very reasonably priced. And yeah, Lauren says that Laura's Eco Living e-courses have provided me with the knowledge and the tools to make my home a beautiful, healthy place. The value for money is exceptional and the guidance amazing. Laura is always happy to help with any problem or question I've had. Finding Laura and her Eco Living e-courses was one of the best days of my life. I can't thank her enough for her time and effort. So yeah, these testimonials are for, I guess, some of my current programs, but I can tell you now, self-sufficiency in the suburbs is my baby. It's been in my head for over 3 years. It's pretty much going to be awesome, and with your help I would love to get it out into this world. So please head on over and pledge your support to help get self-sufficiency in the suburbs created. And once done, be sure to tell your friends and family about this project so they can also take advantage of the fabulous rewards on offer and consider joining with you, because it's much more fun with a friend. So I really look forward to having you on board, and I can't wait to help you create a self-sufficient home. And of course, if you do, when you pledge, over the next couple of days, also just shoot me an email at hello@lauratrotter.com letting me know, and I will get that e-guide to you with some of my Ecotarian recipes. So thank you very, very much for listening. I'm sorry that the live webinar didn't work and the microphone played up, or whatever happened. I still have no idea, but yeah, it didn't go to plan. So I can't really take your questions live on this subject, but if there is anything you want to know about sustainable eating, pledge your support for self-sufficiency in the suburbs, and we'll chat about it in the community there when it launches later this year. But no, just joking. You can still contact me in the meantime. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching. See you later.